When was the last time that you had a problem? It could have been as you were getting out of bed this morning and you realized you forgot about an assignment for school. It could have been that you forgot to do your chores and now your parents have grounded you. It even could have been between deciding what to do next in a fight that you've had with a friend. We've all had problems. In fact, every person in history has had to face and fight problems. And they come against them in different sizes, some big, some small. Just this morning, I had to find a pair of socks, and even though my drawer had tons of socks, I could not find any matches. In fact, I still think I'm wearing a pair of mismatched socks. And that's a small problem. But this week, we're actually gonna begin digging into the story of a guy who faced a huge problem. His name is Nehemiah. And as we look at what happens in Nehemiah's life, we're gonna get a chance to see how God plays a role in the situations and problems of our life. So to start out, go ahead and open up your Bibles to Nehemiah chapter 1. We're gonna start at the very beginning of Nehemiah's story, and just to give you a bit of backstory, Nehemiah occurs while the people of Israel are being ruled over by the nation of Persia. Before the Persians ruled over Israel, another kingdom called the Babylonians had invaded and destroyed huge parts of Israel, including the capital city of Jerusalem. Then they took thousands of people from Jerusalem and other places in Israel and moved them to the capital of Babylon to serve them. Then Persia came in, took over, and the king of Persia had started to allow the people of Israel to go back to Jerusalem and to rebuild their city. And a bunch of them did, and they rebuilt the temple of God, and they were establishing the city again. And this is what's happening leading right up to the beginning of Nehemiah. So let's pick up the story there in Nehemiah chapter 1, and we're gonna start in verse 2. Hanani, one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah. I asked them about the Jews who had returned there from captivity and how things were going in Jerusalem. They said to me, "Things are not going well for those who returned to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down, and the gates have been destroyed by fire." When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. Now, pause here for a second. Quick recap. Nehemiah finds out that Jerusalem has been destroyed, and he's immediately crushed. Think for a moment of a time where you had just heard some news that just punched you in the gut. For me, I think about when I found out my grandfather had passed away, and this happened just last year. And in that moment, much like Nehemiah, I was devastated. I cried. I felt so many things. I was sad. I was angry. I was scared about what was gonna come next. And in other words, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed by my feelings and by the problems I was faced with. Nehemiah shows us something really important, because in the moment where he felt that, he shows us that when we feel these emotions, these feelings that are big and loud, it's like a warning light or an alarm telling us to do what he did next, which is to go to God. And Nehemiah teaches us that what we feel can lead us to God. Sometimes it's easy to think that God doesn't want our problems or our emotions, but he does. And Nehemiah shows us that the best thing we can do to overcome our feelings is to actually reach out to God. And this isn't just a once and done thing. Nehemiah says he mourned and prayed to God for days. It took him a long time of processing with God. But after he processed what was going on, he realized that he still had a problem he needed to face. Jerusalem's walls were still torn down, and so he prays a prayer that starts in verse 5, where he pours out what he feels, and he confesses things that he and his family have done wrong against God, and then he asks God for something. He asks God to restore Jerusalem and to give him direction and guidance in how it should be done. Because what we learn from Nehemiah about what to do when something's not right, when we're broken down, seemingly with no place to turn to, is that we can go to God for direction when we're faced with a problem. So think about the problems that you are facing today. Are you struggling in a fight with a friend or a family member and you don't know what to do anymore? Have you made some mistakes in school and you don't know how to fix them? Do you have feelings that you don't even know where they're coming from and you don't know what to do next? The first step is to turn to God for direction. Ask Him what it is that He would want you to do to find the answer to your problem. And next time, we're going to be hearing about what happens next in Nehemiah's story and how God shows up in some awesome ways. So make sure you come back and join us as we dig into that. But it's been awesome to be with you here this week. We'll see you next time.